What is your promise? Why are you in business? How do you expect to grow?
This is The Hook, a show focused on branding, marketing, and business development.
You brand to inspire, not to sell.
Jason Arsmont, the marketing maverick, gives expertise to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in building a stronger company brand.
Creating a brand is like telling a story. You've got one shot to say it all.
When your marketing works, you've got them on the hook.
We are back once again on The Hook after this great spring break that, I don't know about you, I enjoyed that a week ago. Did you do anything great?
We did. I mean, we spent time with the kids. What did we do? We took them to the Space Center.
Oh, Space Center Houston?
Yeah, that was the first time I had taken them down there, and they were, enthralled, especially my youngest one. My son was just all over the place. Man.
Yeah,
the place
I could
pretty
tell.
Cool.
That's totally his place right there.
That's his scene, man. Yeah.
This is The Hook. You are listening to a branding, marketing, overall business solution radio show with the Maverick, the marketing maverick. His name is Jason Arsmont. I tell you what, after having Alan West in the studio, I just don't know how we're going to beat it. We'll talk about that in a second. This segment brought to you by Brightbox Brand Marketing, which is a great place to work. I know that.
It's all right. It gives you, allows you to do this show. You're so blessed.
It's funny that it's funny that all of my clients say, well, we hope that pretty soon that everything will be in place and we'll be so big that we can be on the radio show. And kind of break it down. So I'm like, it doesn't really take that much to be on the radio
you're in
show.
like company like Alan West.
I know.
And such.
And such. Well, we had Todd Nall on not too long ago who
Todd
did a great
good.
job. We had Oliver Luck that was here. We've had some really good interviews.
We have. And we get great response from you guys, and that's something that we try to do each week. Obviously we want to be a business show, marketing, advertising. I want to help you guys grow your business. I want to give you the tools and tips and kind of tricks of the trade to allow you to leverage up and maximize the return on your investments in marketing, advertising. And part of that is bringing in people in the studio each week. Some of them are business-minded folks. Some of them are ex-military and political-minded folks that know about leadership and how to build leaders and how to be a leader and build organizations and campaigns and do fundraising. And that's what Colonel Alan West was all about last week. He shared his 5 C's of leadership and talked about leading with a servant heart. And I think that those are things that we can all benefit from in our company. I mean, I know it's difficult a lot of times when you're the owner, the president of the company, and trying to lead your organization with a servant heart when you're looking at the P&L and the balance sheet and you're trying to figure out how to make margin and how to make payroll and kind of remembering that, hey, it's really kind of reversed. You work for these employees at times. And so definitely go back and check that out. We got a great little website at thehookradio.com.
Yeah, it'll also give you all of your tips that you want from the past shows, but maybe give you a little insight at Brightbox, who is the sponsor of this segment, what we do on a client-by-client basis. Because it could be that we're building a website. It could be that we're doing SEO work. It could be that we're building a video. This past week, we had a client that needed a video walkthrough for this big presentation that we did, and we also developed a new logo for them. We do so much stuff there.
Yeah, it's really looking back at what we've built with Brightbox over the past 8.5 years. I just couldn't be more proud. My vision whenever we first started this thing and I put $1,000 into the account and said I'm officially in business was to have a fully integrated brand marketing company that did everything from the strategic marketing planning to implementation and graphics and the visual effects to all of the implementation and communication of social media, public relations, pay-per-click, SEO, direct mail, email marketing. And we have that. Now across all the companies, we have just under 100 employees, and we cover all aspects of business development, making it easier and more efficient for you to get your branding and marketing needs done. So check us out. You can go to thehookradio.com. That'll link over to Brightbox, or you can go to brightboxonline.com. But definitely want to go to thehookradio.com, click on the radio tab, and that's where you're going to see all of our previous shows and previous interviews.
That Alan West interview I could listen to, I don't know, a few times. It was so good. That guy was amazing.
Yeah,
a great speaker.
A lot of gems in there, man.
A lot of really good stuff. I actually sent it over to the people that I work with in the Scouts. And they were like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Especially whenever he talked about getting up to life, which is that's not just a small task.
No,
to
and
get
take
to
it
that.
from someone like me who's an Eagle Scout. I can tell you that's not Eagle. That's not Eagle. That's not an easy task. You know,
Yeah, getting to life.
it's years of commitment and getting all the correct merit badges and accomplishments, and you have to have referrals and people recommending you and writing letters. I mean, it's tough.
And he commented the fact that you do have a merit badge system, which not only works in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, but it works in
life, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Big component or person that doesn't believe, anyways, in these participant trophies. And he talked a little bit about that. So
Right.
you guys are going to want to go check that out. I'm not going to redo the whole show here for you.
What can we do that's going to be better than having Alan West on?
Well-
or at least on the same playing field?
Well, our guest today, kind of like in the same, arena as, leadership and kind of the mindset of a champion, we've actually got Olympian Carl Lewis in studio with us today.
Which is amazing.
He's still in great shape, man. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. I mean, I guess that's how you get, Athlete of the Century? I think he was named Athlete of the Century. That's, 5 Olympic Games. So that's over 20 years of competing at gold level standards. That's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. So there's no better person to come in and talk with us about the mindset of a champion. What does it really take to set audacious, crazy, radical goals and then have the mindset to actually believe that you can achieve them and then to stick to it? Because sometimes it's just plain ignorance, right? You don't know that it's a big goal, so you can kind of achieve them. But year after year, Olympic game after Olympic game, the pressure, the commitments, everything piling up, and he was still able to produce. That's just, to me, it blows me away. So I know he's going to be able to give us some insight on his mindset that we can use as business owners and maybe in our personal lives also.
Well, think about this. Everyone thinks or considers, one day I would love to be an Olympic athlete whenever they're growing up because we're watching the Olympic Games. But not only is the chance of you being an Olympic athlete very, very, very small. How many times have you met an Olympic athlete? They're kind of few and far between.
Yeah, especially those that win.
Who have you met that was an Olympic athlete? Do you know anybody else?
Stephen Lopez.
Yep.
He competed in Taekwondo. He's held more gold medals in Taekwondo than anyone else, and I've had the honor of meeting and training with Stephen
And Gene.
Yeah, and
they're
Gene
great.
Lopez. They're really good folks, but yeah, they're few and far between. And I can tell you that from the few that I've met, there is a pattern in the way that they think. And I'm hoping that we can drill into that today with Carl, and you guys can kind of get a glimpse of that. Because, man, if we could transfer that type of focus and dedication and commitment into the business world, I mean, you are practically unstoppable. And I think that's what it takes to truly achieve amazing things, and not putting my run across Texas on the same level as a gold medal in the Olympics. But, it was a month-long run of running a marathon every single day, and the focus and the dedication. I mean, it was so draining. I just couldn't imagine keeping that pace up for 20 years, the training and the preparation. It took me a year to do that run, or at least to train for it. And by the end of it, I mean, I was so burnt out and just tired and just fatigued mentally. So I'm just excited to hear and get some of his perspective on how he kept that passion, that drive going.
And to think about the pressure of every time you go to a qualifying event, every time that you go the next step, and you think that
you're Carl Lewis, you have to. You can't have a bad race.
You have to perform at your optimal at that point.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yep.
And to make it there over and over and over, just simply amazing. The kind of athlete that, well, I'm trying to think what I would do that would be kind of on the same playing field. Eating, drinking,
Competitive drinking.
Yeah, that's probably about what I do.
I can really give it my all on
I
it.
have as much passion about as he does about being an athlete. So it'll be fun having him in there. That's coming up in probably about 20 minutes from now. Up next, though, we have the business tip of the week. So that's on the way next. Jason Arsmont, the marketing maverick, is on with us. This is The Hook.
I could go for a tipsy tailgate kiss, baby, taste the moonshine.
You found it. This is The Hook, about business and marketing and fishing.
Fishing. This is not a fishing show.
It's
you always
not.
do the hook thing, fishing.
It's not a fishing show. This is where we hook you in. We talk about those business and marketing strategies, and we'd love to hear about the marketing strategies that you've used that either have worked or not worked. You can always go to thehookradio.com and tell us about that. Marketing Maverick, Jason Arsmont, that's also his website, so it's got a lot of great stuff on there. Past episodes, Cool things. And this segment brought to you by ontoboxtraining.com. Got something cool coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. We just finished our seminar that we did last week at the Microsoft store there off of Westheimer, and we have another event coming up at the Work Lodge. Good supporters of the show, the Work Lodge over off of 249 in Louetta, and it's basically teaching you and showing you tips on how to capitalize on an election year, how to grow your business, take advantage of certain things that are happening during election year. So I encourage you to go to ontoboxtraining.com. There's information about that event, and you can learn a little bit more about OntoBox. OntoBox is powerful training for professional people. We provide all types of training in marketing and branding, sales, public relations, social media. We do a lot of field sales training for companies and organizations. So go check us out. Want some training? Give us a call.
And if you don't want some training, give them a call.
Give us a call anyway. We'd like to hear from you. We like talking to people. It's
every
good.
once in a while, Jason needs a break from his wife, Amber, calling him. So call him and say hi.
Nice.
All right, we got our business tip that we're going to talk about now.
Yeah, if you heard last segment, and then coming up in our next segment, we have Carl Lewis, the Olympian, 9-time gold medalist, 5 Olympic Games. We were talking about the mindset of a champion, and what does it really take to be successful in life and in business? And, honestly, I think it takes a lot more than what most people could imagine. So many times I'm talking with business owners, especially, first-time entrepreneurs. They put a website up and they're like, hey, I've got this e-commerce store. We really want it to be a hit. Can you guys help us out? And they either don't understand the amount of money or the amount of time or the amount of differentiation they're going to need within their website. To truly hit it, to be one of the unique companies that steps out and makes it financially, it takes typically more time, more work, more sacrifice, more teamwork, more luck, more drive, these sleepless nights. It's unbelievable the amount of drive that it takes. And, depending on your level of success and how you achieve that. And, I've written a book about this in the past called Your Spot on the Mountain. It's on Amazon. You can go check it out. Definitely a must read. You need to add it to your list. But depending on what you're going to achieve, you're most likely going to have to work at it, right? We all see those few people who seem to start a company and kind of like overnight they become a success, and maybe they had a friend of a friend that gave them a deal and they started off doing a couple $1 million a year, and they just climb the mountain so fast and kind of leave the rest of us scratching our head going, man, how in the world do they do that? When the reality is that for most of us, it's going to be a lot more work. We're not going to just sail right up to the top of the mountain. We're going to have to be methodical. We're going to have to be strategic. We're going to have to be relentless and have a certain amount of grit to ourselves and to our passion in pursuing what it is that we're trying to do. Building strength and stamina, for instance, takes time. It's something that you have to do over time. If you're going to the gym or if you're running, you can't just go out and run a marathon your very first day. It takes practice and training. And really, unfortunately, for business owners, we don't give that type of training and that type of buildup for ourselves. Like, we're normally in business the next day, the next week, the first month or year or whatever. We're trying to turn profit. We're trying to be experts. We're trying to run a marathon right off the bat. So that means that we're going to have these bumps and bruises and, really just to hit hard times. And, there's a couple key things that I always tell people whenever they're looking at doing something, they're setting a lofty goal, because I feel so many times when people are like, hey, I want to be successful or I want to have a company, and you ask them why, their why isn't very clear. You ask them where they want to be when they define success for their company, and they say 10, 20 million. All right, well, what does that really mean? What does that look like? And so I always tell people to start with a very, very clear definition of what that success is. What does your company look like when you get to $20 million in revenue, if that's your goal, right? Maybe the goal should be more your lifestyle. Maybe the goal should be more a return to your investors. Maybe the goal should be whatever it is. But how does the operation look? What kind of clients are you going to need to have? What does the sales structure look like? What does the compensation program look like? These are all details that build out a clearer story or clearer vision of what your success is going to be.
What the other thing people don't consider is, how are you going to handle success? Whenever you have success, are you going to be able to operate the way you're operating now? Or is it going to take some tweaks to the process that you're going through at this current time?
Yeah.
Reevaluating that as you go.
Yeah. You have to stay clear. And I'm guilty of it myself. I've been in business, and I've said I want to build companies and I want to do things. And, maybe what I did over the past 9 years is take opportunities as they came rather than define clearly what I wanted to build to begin with. And, I'm happy with what I have and the companies that I've started and sold. It's all been great. But definitely had I had a clearer vision of what I was trying to build when I first started, I think the company today would be completely different. And so there's constantly that reevaluating and redefining what the success is. And so that's the one part. The other part is being clear on the hard times, right? Understanding that the potential rough spots in your journey will really just help kind of allow you to steamroll those. If you understand what those rough spots are going to be, if you understand and you predetermine how you're going to handle those difficulties, you'll be much better at kind of steamrolling them, just rolling right across them and not allowing them to drag you down and hold you down. I mean, so many companies go out of business or end up having really hard times because they're doing really well for the first year or so, and then all of a sudden they get their first major setback, right? Like all of a sudden, all of your clients are 60 days late on payment, cash flow is non-existent, and you're having to find extra money and do extra things. Well, you should kind of already have a game plan for how you're going to handle that. Right? Your largest account's going to quit and is going to fire you, and you're going to be out of that account. What are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? There's so many things that can come up. And I'm not saying you have to dwell on the potential bad things or the hard times that are going to come. I'm just saying you should have a mindset for how you're going to handle those. If you know that emotionally you're one of those people that, when something bad happens to you, you crawl down into the cave and you get under the covers, and it takes you days to come out from this problem and kind of emotionally, scar over from it, then this might not be a journey for you, because the more successful you get, the more of those bad things are going to happen. And you have to be willing to overcome those and have a game plan, predetermine how you're going to handle certain types of problems that are going to come into place. Over the past 9 years, I've built multiple companies, and we're doing extremely well. And it was not how well I executed and handled myself during the fun, exciting times and selling things that made all of this possible. It was really how I handled the rough times. Cash flow issues, partnership fallouts, acquisitions that had gone bad. I mean, a lot of people will come into the shop and I'll give them a tour of the company, and they're like, man, everything just seemed to go right for you. And I'm like, not really. I'm just
should say, talk to my employees.
Talk to my employees. Talk to my accountant. Not everything went right. What we did, though, is we quickly got over the rough times so that they weren't, just a burn mark on the company. And we tried to move past those things as quickly as we could and put more positive memories and positive things in front of it. And as a result, now we have a positive brand, not just in the marketplace, but internally. I think the employees have seen how we've handled rough times and cash flow issues and, acquisitions that had gone bad. And they see that, hey, regardless of all those things, the leadership is steadfast in the direction that we're going, and they're committed to dragging us through the success, as painful as it may be at times. And, then at the end of the day, everyone's like, oh, wow, this is unbelievable how much you've been able to do in such a short amount of time. You just must do everything right. Well, wrong happens, man. Bad things happen, and you got to be ready to do that. So,
yeah. How many small and medium vendors for oil and gas, big guys, are going through that right now and didn't have a plan? Things are going. It's rocking.
Yeah.
You got a lot of cash coming through. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, over-leveraged, right? They probably got over-leveraged. They never thought, or they probably knew in the back of their mind it could happen, but they didn't plan properly for what if this one major account of ours goes under. What are we going to do then to diversify, to utilize this space? How are we going to start getting additional tenants in here to help offset some of the rent cost? How are we going to utilize unused space? There's just so many things.
All right, I hate to cut you off, but
Nope,
we got a
good.
guest coming in. Carl Lewis is ready to go.
Let's do it.
You excited about this?
This is going to be good. You guys hang tight. We'll be right back with Carl Lewis.
Talking about leadership. It's up next on The Hook. Listening to The Hook. My name is Josh, along with the Marketing Maverick. That's Jason Arsmont. TheHookRadio.com for all our past episodes and much, much more. Our guest this week, unbelievable that you got to snag this one, bro.
Yeah, we've been talking the whole show about the mindset of a champion, what it really takes to be successful, to set lofty goals and things that are far-reaching, and to have the determination and the grit to achieve those. And when it comes to setting goals and setting records, our guest today has to be the top of the top. We're talking during his career, he won 9 Olympic gold medals. across 5 different Olympic Games, earning himself international respect and a place in history as one of the truly greatest athletes of all time. Our guest today is none other than Carl Lewis. Carl, welcome to the show, sir.
Well, how you doing? Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, we're just thrilled to have you, and I know that this is a business show, but I know what you achieved in the athletic world, it can definitely cross over, that mindset. And I'd love to start there is, accomplishing something like what you did year after year. I mean, we're talking almost 20 years of games. That's a long time. How were you able to keep that kind of focus and drive for all those years to stay at that level?
Well, it's really interesting. To me, it goes back. I mean, I was always a person that was kind of entrepreneurial. Even as a kid, my dad said, "Here, you want some money? Take your lawnmower and go mow lawns." Right? Most kids do. Well, what did I do? I hate to mow lawns, so I hired like 3 friends and loaned the lawnmower out for them to do it, and I took a cut. I'm like 10, so I was always the shifty guy. But I think what happened when I came to college, and I treated my recruiting like a business, because I always knew that I wanted, once I got to that level, at the high school level, I knew I wanted to use this to earn my living. I wanted to be Carl Lewis. That's it. I knew it when I was 18. So when I selected University of Houston, because of Coach Tellez told me, I can make you a world champion, and I can make you, I can help you become an Olympic champion and world record holder. Well, I realized that'd be a great brand to make some money, So
yeah.
I basically started there and set the goals right away. And
wow.
And I think the thing is that whether it's in business or it's in sports, a couple of things that people are afraid of. Number one, to set completely lofty goals because they're afraid of failure. Mm-hmm. Well, just to start off, I won 4 gold medals in Los Angeles. We all know that. It's just a story. But guess what? I tried 4 times. So,
nice.
But no one ever
yeah.
comes up to me and says, "Oh my God, you only got it once." They say you did it. So the reality is that you're not going to do it. The only guarantee you won't succeed is if you don't try it. Throw it out there. And with my athletes, I tell them, ask them, "What's your ultimate goal?" And they'll say, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "Shoot for the stars, because all you can end up is on the moon."
Yeah.
And that was the basis of my whole career.
See, I love that. I think so many times people will set a business goal and they say, "Oh, well, I want to do $1 million in sales," right? And it's like, why are you stopping there? Why are you limiting yourself? Because if you fall short on $1 million, you end up at $500,000, and then you kind of have a somewhat of a business, somewhat of a company, And let's set our goals to be gold medal.
Well, the thing is that what's funny,
world records, man.
It's been reported, but a lot of people don't know. But the first meeting I had with my coach at the University of Houston, I said this exact quote. I want to be a millionaire, and I never want a real job. That's what I told him. He looked at me, paused like some a 40-something coach looking at an 18-year-old
like a millennial
kid.
back then.
I know. But he gave me some great advice, and he says, "Okay, we got to go to work. But I'll tell you something. If you focus on the money, you'll never have success." That's exactly what he said.
Yep.
And when I did that, little did I know that the highest paid athlete in track and field made about $30,000 that year. So there was no money in the sport, and I didn't know any better. But once I got active, then I had to find ways to bring money in. So it wasn't just me making money, getting some of it. I had to find ways. So the next year I made the Olympic team. Of course, there's no money there in those days. But I was in a stadium, and I walked in, and it was 60,000 people in Rome. It was just amazing. And I'm looking around here, and one of the guys says, "God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life, 60,000 people." And I'm sitting there looking, saying, 60,000 people that have money.
Man, yeah.
How can I find a way for them to put it in my pocket? And that's when it really clicked. When my freshman year in college, I saw that the money was there. It's just that we weren't getting it.
Wow.
So that's where it started.
So obviously you're a businessman behind the talent and behind the athlete. And I mean, that's obvious. But I'm curious, just from I know the type of training that it takes to compete at that level. And what was it that got you up every day and focused on that caliber of training? I mean, that's like a full-time year-round to compete at that level. And I just think most people don't grasp the concept of hard work.
Well, you know what? Track and field too. Just to give you a perspective, my best in 100 meters was 9.86. Okay. So
that's it? Oh.
Well, let's just do it. 1%, okay? 1% is a tenth of a second, all right?
Wow.
So 1% is a tenth of a second. So that's 9.96. 2% is 10.06, all right? Now, 9.86 won the world championships that year, set the world record. 10.06 was 8th.
Wow.
So, and 10.09 did not make the final. So, if I was 97.5% of my absolute best of all time, I would not make the final.
Wow.
That's the sport we're in. And so when I started, my thing was I wanted to jump 29 feet. That was just because Bob Beamon was like this dream person out there. I met Jesse Owens when I was 13. So I wanted to jump 29 feet. So my quest was never to win the gold medals. It was the quest to jump 29 feet. So the reason I ended up doing 4 is because by the time I was 19, I jumped 28. And when I was 21, I jumped 28.10. So I'm just 6 inches away. So
You're
I'm like,
there.
I
You're
got
so
this.
close.
Daddy's
Yeah.
got this, But then I was also a big fan of Jesse Owens, and I was sprinting, and I said, wow, I could really blow everything up if I go for 4. So I went to my coach, Tom Tellez, and I said, do you think I can get 4? And he's like, I have no idea. No one's trained for it since Jesse. We don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I said, what about the world record's a wrap. You got the world record in the long jump. So I said, people now expected that, but they didn't expect the 4.
Right.
So what got me up every day was the challenge to be excellent, not to be the Olympic champion, but to do the things I wasn't sure I could do, like go for 4.
Yeah.
And you know what? He said it may cost you the long jump world record, and I never held the outdoor record, but I knew I could have.
Right.
But if I had chosen the other way, then I would always say, God, I wonder if I could have gotten those 4 gold medals.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Blow that doubt out of your mind.
Don't even have to worry about it now. I mean, you're safe. You're good.
Yeah, you did it. You solidified your spot.
One thing I worried about, though, I think that people worry about, not me, but they worry about success. Like when you get there, and we talked about this earlier, whenever you get to that point where you're at the pinnacle, you're above everybody else, you are a top dog, do you worry about what success is going to feel like and what you're able to do from there? Because you're at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, the pressure's got to
Well,
be
everything.
But you know what? I think it's the way you deal with it. To me, I did this weird thing, and looking back on it now, it was a great idea. I didn't think of it that way. Well, I used to take my medals, world championships and Olympic medals, and put them in a safe deposit box because I always had this thing: medals don't win races. And then I would leave my uniforms in the room. So like when the meet was over, it's over. We go to the next meet, and so it was always on to the next goal. And I understood that to build a brand and to stay global, you have to constantly evolve. Because some of the things that I did early on in my career, when track and field was just this amateur sport no one knew, I befriended people in the entertainment industry. Well, a great friend of mine, Narda Michael Walden, who was a hot producer back in the early 80s, he invited me to the Grammys. And I went to the Grammys, but when I got there, I was like all excited. I'm at the Grammys. But what did I do? I ran up to Michael Jackson. How you doing? I'm Carl. But they started hearing about me. And I'm like, do you have any advice for success or Prince? Or I went to these people. It was a business meeting for me. It was a business trip.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot of things. So I was constantly trying to figure out from everyone, how can I build a brand? And then I realized, celebrities in entertainment, they love athletes, and athletes love celebrities. So they were glad to tell, do this. I remember the Jacksons used to always say, don't talk loud when you do interviews, because people, when everyone's making a lot of noise, don't yell over them, just talk lower.
Yeah.
Because then they have to quiet up to hear you. And stay in your room a lot, because everyone's in the lobby hanging around, and I'd go to my room and they wouldn't see me for 23 hours a day. And it's like, gosh, this guy's so arrogant and mysterious. What's he doing?
Yeah,
out
the
there?
anticipation builds.
Yeah, I know. Well, what I was doing, I was bored to death because he had no English TV in those days. and think about it, this is pre Walkman days. So you had to either carry a big box or you had nothing. So what did I do? I read the Wall Street, the International Tribune, because that was kind of it.
Yeah.
There was no USA Today. And so I was just in the room doing my own thing, but just creating the anticipation. So it was always trying to find what you have to do. Little things. If you watch a track meet, and everyone that's ever watched a track meet, when the race is over, they run up to you and they say, how are you feeling? What was the race like? And I remember seeing people say, well, it was really a great race and I had a good time. Everyone's seen that. So I said, absolutely not. You will never see me do that. So when the race is over, I would deliberately do victory laps and going in the cameras. We want to interview you. I'm waving to the crowd. They'll never stop. And they'll say commercial. I'm like, oh, good, great. I'd run to my bag, wipe my face off, get my bag, get my jacket, clear my head. And they say, well, Carl, how'd you feel this race? Well, it was a really great race today. I really focused on doing,
Catch your breath and your composure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was all that stuff. People can say it was calculated, and they said it was calculated, but to me, I looked at it, it was business.
Yeah, it's branding, man. That was awesome. Yeah. And I love the advice that your college coach gave you. And it's kind of interesting because since kind of retiring from all these Olympic games you were doing, you've kind of come full circle. Tell us a little bit about where you're at right now, because I know you've kind of fostered a new passion. It's got you where you are these days.
Well, it's kind of interesting how we got to where I am now. I started coaching 3 years ago at the university. But when I retired, I went out into entertainment. I did all these different things. I do speeches. I talk around the world. I'm a UN ambassador. I do all these kind of things. But I started coaching when I moved back to Houston. I lived away for a few years. And then I went on the staff at the University of Houston as a sprint coach and jump coach last year. And what was really amazing to me is recently we have not had the success, especially in my events. And when I was going to the meets, I realized, my goodness, we're not doing well because of a multitude of reasons. Number one, obviously, the lack of physical education in schools. Kids don't play anymore. They don't move.
From like grade school up.
All the way
okay.
up.
Yeah.
And bigger than that, PE teachers actually had some biomechanic. They went to classes. They learned this. So now where it was a PE teacher, now it's a math teacher.
Filling in for a PE period. Yeah,
because
okay.
they don't even have PE. They're the coaches. So and they're doing it because they need the extra $3,000 or whatever. So our reason we're not having the success is because people are not learning how to perform as well, and there's a lack of understanding. So I got more in depth into it and realized these kids are coming to me as a college coach, and they have no clue what's going on. And not only do they not have a clue of how to run, they're being told incorrect ways and being corrected to do it wrong. So they're saying, oh, no, you're doing it wrong when it's actually pretty right. And they're doing this because someone's telling them the new way. As you can imagine, all these elementary and everything it's pay to play for coaching now. It used to be programs, now it's pay to play. So I got involved, and so now I'm not only coaching, but I have this whole program I'm doing that we call the Perfect Method that I'm developing.
I don't want you to talk too much about it yet.
Yeah.
Because this is a good tease.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break.
You have a lot of information on this. I know from a previous meeting that you're going to tell us all about, but we got to hold them over right now.
Okay.
This is like an American Idol tease.
And you're Ryan Seacrest.
No, not
We'll
hardly.
be right back.
There we go.
All right, we'll be right back on The Hook. We're back on The Hook. Carl Lewis with us here on The Hook.
What Carl's talking a lot about is building a brand, and he's going to share with us a little bit about how he's approaching training for running and for jumping. But that's also a brand. That's a unique differentiator in his now personal brand and what he brings to a market of coaching. So keep that in mind from a business standpoint. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you stumbled across this.
Well, what happened is I was watching meets, and my first year, because Leroy Burrell's the head coach at Houston, and he'd been in it for 15 years. I hadn't been in it at all. I'd been coaching with age group kids. I volunteered at high school, so I dealt with them. But I wanted to kind of get the beat of what's going on, because now the college level, that's world-class level.
Right.
So my first year, I would deliberately go over to the long jump pit during the competitions, and I'd sit way down in the front row and watch so I could hear the coaches coach.
To just intimidate everybody else that's trying to jump.
I didn't have anyone. I just kind of sit there like this nice little guy, but what I was really doing was listening to what they were saying to see what are they saying right, what are they saying wrong.
So picking up on what they were doing.
Exactly. And I realized there wasn't a lot right,
Wow.
And the athletes weren't jumping very well. And our event had gone down. So I just said, this is pretty amazing. So then I started to look more in depth at what it is, and we're teaching the incorrect things. And then now, just like any sport, you have these celebrity coaches. And they're like the big name coaches, celebrity, and everyone knows them, but a lot of times they don't really know anything. And I figure that it's very difficult to be successful, but it's not. But if you take it down to its simplicity, then you could actually go directly past a lot of these people and go directly to the public.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that was really the idea when I talked about the perfect method, because when I was on a show one time, and the interviewer asked me, who is your competition? And I said, perfection. They're like, oh my God, perfection. but every day I practice for perfection.
Yeah.
And so there really is one perfect way to run your fastest. So
Okay.
whether you're tall or short or big or small, there's one way. There's a certain movement, push, and everything else. And so because of that, we can actually come up with a model that everyone can emulate. And with new media and the internet, we're able to get that down to people. And we're really excited about this new perfect method. So now we can technically coach the world from one spot.
So what's an example of one of those things that you saw, like, incorrect to correct form? I'm curious. I know our listeners are probably like, well, you just take off running, don't you?
Yeah. Well, let me give you something. It's a perfect example. Let's figure the long jump. And I'm going to try to do this quick so you can understand it. Well, there is if you go from the long jump, everyone knows that you can't go over the edge of the board or it's a foul. It doesn't count. Okay?
Right.
So we have what's called a check mark. The check mark is probably, let's say, 32 feet back from the board.
Okay.
And that depends on how fast you are and how tall you are. Well, let's say Cameron Burrell, who I coach. Cameron Burrell's check mark is 31.6. If Cameron hits 31.6, then he should be on the board. So he starts from 150 feet. So if he's at 30'6", then he should foul. And if he doesn't foul, that means he's too close. And the problem is in the first part of the run.
In the stride or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to fix that part. But let's say if he's over, then we move the whole run back. Well, if he's at 32.6 and he's on the board, that means he's reaching the second half. So now I know the mistake. So I was at a meet, a guy that did extremely well, great athlete. He comes in on his first jump. He runs down and he hits at about 32.6. And he should have been about 31. And he fouls. But only reason I knew he was at 32.6 because my athlete who was there had a check mark at 31. So I knew how far he was, but he didn't use a check mark, his coach. So he fouled. So when you go over the edge of the board, you foul, you normally say, move back because you're too far, you're too close. So they moved him back. He said, move back 6 inches. So he moved back 6 inches. And the next jump he comes in, now he's really nervous, he's backing off, and guess what? He's way back, he's like about 33 now because now he's a little nervous and guess what? He doesn't touch the board. He's like a foot behind the board.
Yeah, he's holding
So
back,
now they're like, oh my God, what did you do? They have no clue what's going on. So then they move him up 6 inches because they're scared. He runs down this time and he hits at about 31. And then he backs off, jumps 23 feet, does not make it to the Nationals.
Doesn't hit nearly his potential.
Exactly.
Right.
So I sat there and watched. And so what should have happened? When he hit 32.6 on the first jump and fouled, I would have said, move up 6 inches, put your feet down and go off the board. Because of the reason being, you may not even realize you're reaching. You can't see it sometimes.
Right.
And then the second jump
They
would
saw
have been
him over
corrected.
and just assumed he was too close.
Assumed he was too close. But
Yeah.
I knew because I had a marker because I'm working on the perfect method. The perfect method is you have to hit 31.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then if you don't hit 31, I know where the mistake is.
Yeah. Wow. So you guys are hearing the type of detail in the mythology that goes into pulling something like this off, calling something the perfect method. Think about that in your business. How many of you guys, dredge through your P&L and your balance sheet with meticulous detail to make sure that everything is accounted for, that every penny, every dollar makes sense, is in the right category? I mean, you're talking and you're hearing from somebody that's achieving, gold medals time and time again in his life, and you're hearing how close he is to, challenging every 10th of a second. Right. So let's challenge every 10th of a dollar and see if we can't improve our margin. So
that's exactly right. I mean, this is something that'll blow everyone away. And it relates back to business, how meticulous you have to be. When you're sprinting or running, the average person runs 4 or 5 strides in 1 second.
Wow, okay.
Your feet touch the ground 4 or 5 times in 1 second when you're running your fastest. You never imagine it's that much, but it is because you generally can run about 10 meters. So if you're talking about 4 seconds, in 1 second your feet hit the ground 4 times, now you realize there's no way in the world I can think about that. That's muscle memory.
Right.
So therefore, that's finding what little thing is going wrong and then doing it over and over and over and over until your body remembers it. Because you take 4 steps without taking it before you even take a breath.
Yeah.
And in the long jump, the people that may have seen me jump, all the double hitch kick and all that moving in the air, we're in the air between 0.9 and 1.1 seconds.
Wow.
All that activity happens in 1 second.
Yeah.
So therefore, here again, and I ask people, think of something and then do it in 1 second. You simply can't do it. So therefore, it's repetition. And if you want, so now that's intimidating to a lot of people to be, wow, I have to do this. So they're intimidated because you can't change something. Now, we're all predisposed genetically to jump a certain way because when everyone in the audience and everyone here, when you jump, you automatically feel like you're going to fall forward. That's just natural. So you naturally back off. You lean back when you jump off the ground. That's natural. That's genetically predisposed for millions of years in us.
Okay.
And so, but if you want a really long jump far, you actually have to leave the ground forward. So now, not only do you have to teach yourself to do something in 1 second in the air, but you have to change the genetic code in your own body.
Right.
To do it.
Something that you're not predisposed to do, right?
That's happened. That's been generations.
And then build muscle memory to that.
To do that.
Yeah.
And the thing is that but you can jump fairly well without doing that. But to go the other way, you have to really jump far, you have to go the other way. And so that's the difference. So people don't understand, why am I not jumping far? Because of those last two little things, understanding the run and that little bit
kind
off the
of
board.
building better habits.
Yeah, exactly.
Building better muscle memory. So we're going to coin that operational memory, right? When it comes to your company, it's like muscle memory. So we're talking about the perfect method with Carl Lewis, and I'm sure knowing you as an entrepreneur and a business guy, there's something new coming up that you're going to plan on getting this out there, that you're going to try to be sharing this with folks and with people that don't typically have access to Carl Lewis, because we've only got a few minutes with you. So,
right. Well, I think
what are the plans for the future to get this method out there?
Well, obviously there's a huge advantage we have now over what he did when I competed, and we have the internet, we have, and then we have access to people, and fortunately for me, it's an Olympic year. So if I say one little thing, it kind of goes. I made some comments about 2 weeks ago about USA and the state of track and field, and it went, as they say, viral. It was everywhere. The cover of Sports of USA Today Sports, the cover, just one little couple of comments, and it's just there. So I have a huge advantage, but I think the biggest thing is that we're going to go directly to the people, and we do have new media that gets an opportunity, and also the branding of the Olympic Games. I'll be doing television and radio and all these kinds of things. But the reality is, for a product like the Perfect Method, for it to really go, ultimately people have to believe in it. And fortunately for us, in whether you're a sprinter or just a casual 5K runner on a weekend, everyone runs the same. It's just that you run it slower.
Right.
So, you probably wouldn't even notice there are over 30 million casual runners in America.
Wow.
30 million that just run 5Ks, casual runners. Every single one of them could benefit from that, just like the high school kid, just like the college coach, just like the parent that can say, wait a minute, that coach isn't telling my kid the right thing.
Ooh,
so it's really everyone, even someone that doesn't want to coach, could analyze. And I think that's the great part about it. Everyone can use it. And it's not just track and field, because it's really about running, jumping, and throwing. And the basis of track and field is running, jumping, and throwing. And then if you add kicking, that adds really all sports.
Sure.
So, but even the kicking, it's how you move, how you plant. And so if we have the perfect movements, then we can create these movements for people to emulate, and then they know what they're trying to do. So it isn't a matter of like, get out on emotion, because success is not emotion. The best athletes, they'll tell you I don't get out, I don't psych myself up, I don't do this. They just go out and take care of business. They learn how to do it. Why do you always make the free throw? Because I practice a free throw over and over and over, and I'm confident I'll make it.
Right.
And so I think for people, the first thing is for me to continue to let people know that it's okay to want to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because
I love that.
I set that goal to jump 29 feet when I was 17 years old. I hit it when I was 30.
Wow.
So the quest continued. And the day I hit it 3 times the same day. So in the past, I had Coach Tellez's eyes to see, Carl, your arm is not right. Do this again. And then by the season came, we're back close to perfect again. We're back up to 95% again.
Yeah.
But guess what? everyone doesn't have Coach Tellez's highs. And I'm probably the most unique person because he's probably the best coach of the 20th century, track and field.
Wow.
And then I actually did what he asked.
Yeah.
So now
Listen.
I know what it is out on the field. I respected him 100%. So I bring, it's not like I'm bringing Carl Lewis. It's just that I'm bringing the Tom Tellez method and putting it on top of Carl Lewis's knowledge.
Right.
And now guess what? Everyone on earth can have a Coach Tellez watching them and a Carl Lewis telling you how it feels.
And so it sounds like what I'm hearing. So you're planning on providing this on an online portal? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Or I mean, you're still kind of shaping this up a little bit. I
Yeah,
imagine,
we are.
but-
Yeah, it's an online portal, and they'll be able to, obviously the great thing about it is that we have access to the cloud, so people can interact.
Okay.
And it can even go beyond just individuals, because since you're talking about trying to get the perfect method, there will be a way to track your methods. It also adds the social content in it, because what if it's two schools that want to say, since you're tracking, we have scoring and we're trying to hit certain levels. So now schools can compete, hit levels. Kids can say, "Oh, I'm better than you." So it really it's something that can not only be just a learning experience, but it could be a social experience.
Right.
But it can also be something that's simplistic enough where parents can just have access to it and constantly talk. We're constantly updating, and you can constantly get new information.
Right,
It isn't
right.
something you download and I look at the video and that's it.
So what's the best way for someone to follow you? Are you on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or any of these platforms?
Yes, I am. I'm on Twitter. That's probably the
Okay,
easiest way. Yep.
okay.
Carl_Lewis. There I am. So
It's not the original,
that's me.
the real, 100% Carl Lewis.
No, I don't do all of that. And I even, it's funny you say that, because and I talk to all my athletes. And I tell them, get rid of all this stuff, Big Poppy and all that stuff. Get rid of that mess. Put your name on. So I have a girl that's a jumper. She's in high school and she's coming up, and she has a really unique first name. She had something on there. I didn't even know what it was. Little Simba, something like that. Simba. So I said, girl, get that off. You need to put your first name. Don't even put your last name. Be like Beyonce. We're going all the way.
Right?
Yeah. One word, one name.
One name. That's it.
I love it.
So I have two of them like that. But yeah, that's it. Carl Lewis, because that's that's the one that people can follow. And then that's the easiest way. And I want to be able to interact all the time with people back and forth. And we're building the sites for of course, our company, Winning Dimensions, and then with the Perfect Method, we're building that now. But you can always have access to me at Carl Lewis. Just Carl Lewis.
Just go to Twitter, check it out. Check out Carl. I mean, and these kids, what they're picking up from a coach like you, from an athletic standpoint, as far as professional and branding, I mean, just unbelievable. We're just so honored that you took the time to come in and meet with us. I know our listeners, we're going to get tons of emails and follow-up questions. I can't thank you enough for such a valuable amount of time. And yeah, man, this has been great.
If you got in on the last half of this, you can always download it. We'll have it up very soon on thehookradio.com. Thanks for coming in today, Carl. Jason here, the Marketing Maverick. We'll see you again next week on The Hook.